Hi everybody, it's your girl Jade. I have had several people ask me how I got started in the modeling industry and any advice I could give them. So let's get started. So basically starting, I grew up in Mississippi, very small town. My mom did quite a few fashion shows when I was growing up, and I think I started when I was six, about 6 years old. And I want to pretty much say I was sold after that. After I walked on the stage, I just knew that that's my calling. It's like when people decide that they want to be a singer, they've known since they were little. So that's basically how I knew that's all I wanted to do since I was little. I just wanted to do runway, and there was no talking me out of it. And even though I grew up very shy, timid, tomboy girl in the South in the 70s and 80s, I was one of those playing the yard with my younger brothers, tomboy, crying the bathroom type of girls who got teased a lot. Side note, I still wanted to pursue modeling. However, growing up, even though I did want to pursue modeling, like that's all I ever wanted to do, specifically runway, I probably heard every single type of negative connotations anybody could say to a person in the industry. I heard you're too short, you're too Asian looking, um, you'll never do runway because you're too short and you're too thick. Um, you will never be a model unless it's print and commercial, and that's if they accept you because you're too fat, for lack of a better word. So, like I said, I heard quite a few no's as a teenager and in my early 20s. So, eventually, for someone who grew up the way I did in Mississippi, when you hear all that negativity directed towards you and that's all you want to do in life, you kind of develop, I'll just outright say it, I grew up with very, very low self-esteem. So I kind of I didn't want to pursue modeling anymore because I heard a lot of rejection, and I just decided maybe it's not for me. So in the in the end, about 8 years ago, I gave birth to my beautiful, handsome son, and he is my everything. Like he's the air I breathe. He's the reason I smile, the reason I wake up every single morning. A year, probably a year after he was born, and I lost all my baby weight, I kind of got this figure on me. I got some higher self-esteem. I looked in the mirror and I was like, wow, look at her. She is fierce. She is gorgeous. And that's when I was like, honey, we gonna do this modeling thing. Yes, ma'am, we are. Because you may hear some artists or other models say when they have a passion for something, and even though they try, excuse me, even though they try their best to not want to do it, it kind of never dies. And for me, that's what modeling was. It was something that was, for whatever reason, ingrained in me to do until the day I die. So it even though when I was younger, before I had my son, I I would still constantly think about, I want to be a model. I want to be a runway model. I want this. I love being in front of the camera. Even being shy, I could not get enough of being in front of the camera. So, like I said, a year after my son was born, I decided I wasn't going to stop. I don't care how many no's that I heard. I don't care how many people told me I didn't look a certain way. I was not going to stop, because eventually someone had to tell me yes. And that is exactly what I got. So one of my first gigs was a video shoot for a local artist in the DC area. And at the video shoot, I talked to quite a few models who had been in the industry quite a while. And during our conversations, one of the models in particular basically told me about this website called Model Mayhem. And she said, you go on this website, you create your account, get everything set up, and from there, it should be a straight shot. So very next day, after the video shoot was done, that's the first thing I did. I went on Model Mayhem. I posted some pictures. I started, looking at the castings and seeing what was out there, and I started watching a lot, and I mean a lot, of America's Next Top Model, because that was one of my very, very favorite shows. And I started getting a lot of pointers from that show, from YouTube. I did a lot of Google searches. I started listening to other models talk. I started practicing poses. And thankfully, by the good grace of God, I was blessed enough to run across a photographer who was starting a movement in the DC area called the Curves Ahead Project. And what the Curves Ahead Project is, the photographer, who is the CEO, he wanted to shed light on the plus size industry, specifically in the DC area, because not a lot of designers and models get their fair share of media, for lack of a better word, media representation for the plus size community. We fell in love with the idea. There were a handful of us that did the Curves Ahead Project book, which is now out and for sale. And this was 3 years ago. And since then, it has grown to be an annual full-figure fashion showcase for the DC area. And like I said, I know I am truly blessed to be a part of that movement just in the DC area alone. I mean, I could not thank the photographer enough. His name is Mickey Leon, and like I said, I can't thank him enough for giving me my dream. My dream was always and will always be to do runway modeling. So yeah, I started with him from the Curves Ahead Project. I did run into quite a few more photographers in the DC area, specifically with Model Mayhem. A lot of the photographers, well, I can't say a lot, select few photographers on Model Mayhem do TFP, which is Trade for Photos. And with this, the Trade for Photos is you agree with the photographer, him or her, for them to use your pictures for their portfolio, and they give you either all of your pictures from the shoot or a few of the edits from the shoot. And I want to say 8 times out of 10 they'll give you the edits. They won't give you all of the pictures, but either way, it's still a very good deal. So that's basically what TFP is. You do trade for photos. And I've since my start 5 years ago, my real start 5 years ago. I've done several magazines. I've done, of course, the DC Full Figure Fashion Showcase 3 years in a row. I have, of course, I was a featured model on the Curves Ahead Project book that is now out. I can't say that enough. I've done several runways. I've done runway competitions. And yeah, I mean, it's all of the no's that I've heard so far were worth it. They were worth it. And thankfully, my self-esteem is not as low as it was. I mean, I still have some work to do, but you know, we're all a work in progress. We are all a work in progress. So that is basically why I wanted to start this YouTube series. I started it because a lot of people were asking me, like I said, how I got started in the industry, any advice I can give them. And actually quite a few people have asked me, you know, for tips on auditioning and my runway walk. And I'll be honest, I tell this to a lot of people. You are your own worst critic. And I say that humbly, because even though every time I go to a runway audition, I'm selected to be one of the models, I still see that as a blessing regardless, because I don't see my runway walk as fierce like other people see it. And I am very thankful that the people who have told me, Jay, your walk is like awesome. Can you teach me how you walk like that? Like how do you do that? And I tell them all the time, I'm absolutely nervous every single time I walk. Every single time I walk. Every time I do a photo shoot. Every time I get ready to audition. It never gets old. I love it every single time. I'm always nervous, and I think there's a reason I stay nervous, and it's because it could all be taken away at any time, honestly. So I suppose that's all. So I look forward to talking with you all sometime next week, and I hope this video has been helpful for some of you, at least one person. If I can help at least one person, then I know I did my job. So if you have any advice for me on how I could make this video better, I am open to suggestions. This is my very first. I hope I didn't bore you. I hope I gave you a lot of good tips. In the future though, I do hope to at least get to a point where I can show you my runway walk. And maybe, you know, one of the professional models will be able to give me tips on my runway walk, because I'm not completely confident in it myself, as I said. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe if you want me to talk about anything else. I'm a single parent. I love runway. I love photo shoots. I love any and everything that has to do with the modeling industry, because it is me. It is Jade. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at I am Jade Jenkins. I will provide a link to Model Mayhem and my website and all of my social media accounts in the description box below. If you have any questions for me, like I said, tips, tricks, anything you can offer me, I am more than willing to listen. And if you really liked it, share it with all of your friends. And I look forward to talking to you all next week. See you later.